I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
سيد نائب الرئيس.
Thank you. Mr. Vice President, I deliver the statement on behalf of His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates in the Syrian Arab Republic, Dr. Faisal Mekdad, who was unable to personally participate in the proceedings of this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, convening this meeting of the General Assembly of the United Nations today to discuss the dangerous situation in the occupied Palestinian territories, which is a result of the barbaric Israeli onslaught, is of special importance in light of the paralysis that the Security Council is facing due to the United States preventing it from assuming its responsibilities in maintaining international peace and security. The Nakba, the catastrophe that the Palestinian people have been experiencing for the past 73 years as a result of the Israeli occupation's policies of forced displacement, demographic change, collective expropriation, and blockade, as well as the gross violations of human rights and mass massacres, have made their case a continuous human tragedy unparalleled in modern history. What is regrettable is that this issue that has accompanied the United Nations since its establishment and on which hundreds of resolutions were adopted remains a testament to the failure of the international community to end the occupation and its continued brutal Israeli practices. What we have witnessed during the holy month of Ramadan in terms of provocative Israeli practices against the Palestinians and residents of Al-Quds comes in the context of Israel's implementation of its plans to annex Al-Quds to its entity, and in the context of an open Israeli attempt to escalate and to create pretexts for a new round of acts of aggression with the aim of covering up the internal political impasse that Netanyahu's government is going through. Consequently, it bears full responsibility for this barbaric aggression against the Palestinian people. An aggression that constitutes a link in a continuous chain of actions and acts of aggression that Israel has consistently carried out in our Arab region, including Israel's repeated attacks against my country, Syria, and against Lebanon, and Israel's explicit support for armed terrorist groups. Mr. President, we condemn in the strongest of terms the ongoing Israeli war against the Palestinian people in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, the Gaza Strip, and the rest of the occupied Palestinian territories. We also condemn any attempt to cover up Israel's crimes against Palestinian civilians, which only in a few days have claimed hundreds of martyrs and left thousands wounded, most of whom are women and children. These actions represent war crimes and crimes against humanity under international humanitarian law. It is reprehensible that some try to describe the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories as a quote-unquote cycle of mutual violence or quote-unquote war between Israel and Palestinian factions, thus giving Israel the right to self-defense. This description is inhumane. It is wrong and it is completely misleading. The truth is that what is happening is a prescribed Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people. Any talk about Israel's right to defend itself is tantamount to encouraging Israel to continue its brutal aggression and giving it a license to kill Palestinians and rob the Palestinian people of the right to life, especially by destroying inhabited buildings as people reside in them. Here we have the right to ask. If Israel's crimes were not aggression and crimes of war, then what are they? Ladies and gentlemen, the continued Israeli crimes against our people living under occupation, the deadlock of reaching a solution based on the implementation of relevant international legitimacy resolutions, and the promotion of suspicious deals and delusional solutions, including Trump's so-called recognition of annexing the occupied Syrian Golan and Jerusalem to Israel. Add to that the declarations of Israeli leaders that it is ready for endless wars in the Middle East. All of these are factors that do not contribute to achieving peace and security in the Middle East region. The international community, which believes in the United Nations Charter, represented by the member states of the United Nations, has a duty to urgently put an end to the crimes of the Israeli authorities and to end Israel's occupation of Arab lands, including Jerusalem and the Syrian Golan, in accordance with the relevant resolutions of our organization. In conclusion, I would like to reaffirm our position in standing by our Palestinian brethren in their ordeal. We support the right to establish their independent state with Jerusalem, Al-Quds, as its capital, and its right to obtain full membership in this organization. I thank you for your kind attention.